Hey guys, this is AI Gaming 1776 and I have been trying to review the BenQ XL2430T monitor for a while now. It is a 144Hz 1080p monitor that does not have G-Sync, but it is kind of expensive for a 1080p monitor in 2015. Now this video is either going to be the review for the monitor or it's going to be a supplement for reviewing the monitor. I have several games here and I have 4 columns that I've made so far, and let me explain this real quick before I go on. This column over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 5 games definitely look better in 1080p with a high refresh rate. And then these games over here, including Metal Gear Solid 5, I'm afraid, and Crysis 3, in my opinion, from what I've seen with the monitor so far, the games in that, so the far left column, those games, they look good in high refresh rate, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't necessarily say they look better. I wouldn't say that you're missing out if you play them at 60 frames per second. Whereas this column over here on the far right, I really feel like you are missing out if you don't play them in high refresh rate. I feel like those games look fantastic in high refresh rate. So, the 2 middle columns are undecided, all right? That's how this system is working. Now, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to make this video be the review or if this video is going to be the supplement. You'll know by the time I post it. It'll clearly state in the title or in the description, because here's what we're dealing with. It is an expensive 1080p monitor. It's about $400, give or take. It's really less than that. It's about $380, $390, somewhere in there, but the price goes up and down, like with a lot of electronics. So the thing is it worth $400, give or take, for a 1080p monitor? Or is it worth $380 for a 1080p monitor? And that's why I'm making this, that's why this review's been so hard to make. I guess I'll say it that way. And that's why this video just might end up being supplemental to the actual review. Now, the fact that I'm even asking this question should give you a hint that this is a good monitor for gaming, okay? I wouldn't even be making this video, I wouldn't even be asking this question if this was not a good monitor for gaming. Alright, so what we have here, this is Dragon Age Inquisition. I'm looking at the viewfinder. You guys are not seeing like how good this looks on the I can tell on the camcorder viewfinder. Like sometimes the game looks really good on the viewfinder and sometimes like it doesn't look bad, but I can tell you're not really seeing the nuance. So I'll see if brightness helps. The problem with that is my camera will probably automatically adjust itself, so even though I up the brightness, it'll still kind of look the same, if you know what I mean. Some games look really good when I use the camcorder, some don't. Alright, so we are playing Dragon Age Inquisition at 65 frames per second. I want to show you 2 things, okay? First of all, we are using a GTX 970 graphics card. I'll probably have that in the description. I'm sorry I didn't say that sooner. Let me turn off the MSAA ×2. Let me turn that off. Oh yeah, I gotta use the analog stick. Alright, let me turn that off. Alright, let me show you the graphics. We're using Ultra Mesh, so that's maxed. We're using High Tessellation, so that's not maxed. We're using Fade Touch Texture, that's maxed. Shadow Quality, Ultra Maxed. Terrain, Ultra Maxed. Vegetation, Medium. Medium is fine. If you want to have higher, you can have higher, but I'll show you why I have medium. I'll show you as I go on. Water Quality, High. Ultra Process. Post-process quality is ultra. Ambient occlusion is HBAO. It's not HBAO full, so that's not maxed. Effect quality maxed. Post-process anti-aliasing high is maxed. MSAA is off for right now. Shader quality is on ultra, which is maxed. All right, these are very good settings. Furthermore, right now we are getting in the 80s for the frame rate. 80. Now we're getting in the 70s, and this looks really, really, really good. Okay. My daily monitor, I say daily, the monitor that I've been using for almost 2 years now is a different monitor than this. It's a 60 Hertz monitor. And a lot of you probably have 60 Hertz monitors. I'm pretty sure 60 Hertz monitors are the most common ones. By the way, I'm doing this video in one take, so if I make mistakes or whatever, please bear with it. All right, so look, there's a lot of detail in these character models. I mean, this looks really good. All right, so my normal monitor, 60 hertz monitor, RL2455HM. Very good monitor for what it is. It's a $179, $178 monitor, 60 hertz refresh rate, 1 millisecond gray to gray. Really good monitor. Not as good as this, obviously, but it's less than half the cost, too. All right. So, with that said, I'm used to the game looking good, but this looks even better. Okay, this is like so much better, so much crisper, so much more detail. Now, the reason why I'm stopped right here is this area in particular. I want to talk about this for a certain reason. Let me show you. So this, where we are, looks really good. The grass looks really good. The terrain looks really good. The characters, everything looks just absolutely fantastic. And because we have the higher refresh rate and because we have the higher frame rate, we're above 60 frames per second. Everything, like the camera pans beautifully. Okay, everything is just fantastic. Now, we're at 80 frames per second, all right? We're not at 144. Let me tell you something right now. The people who tell you that you need to get 144 in every game to justify a 144 monitor, they're wrong. Point blank, they're wrong. This looks better than my 60 hertz monitor all day long. And when I'm using DisplayPort for this, when I use HDMI, I'm trying to stay in this area for a reason. Sorry for talking so long in this area. When I use HDMI, on this same monitor, it caps at 60 frames per second, and it does not look as good as this, okay? So the extra frames per second matter, all right? Now, a lot of people will tell you, oh, well, this is only 81 frames per second right now, or as I spin it around, this is only 75. That's not worth it. No, they're wrong. It is worth it. Keep in mind that I also have a lot of settings maxed out right now, and this game is kind of hard on your graphics card. If I wanted to have a higher frame rate, I could turn things down. I don't know if I'd hit 144 with the GTX 970, but I know I would be over 100. I feel confident in that. Now, let me show you why I stood here the whole time. All right? And when I show you this, I'll also explain further why I told you about my other monitor, the 60 hertz monitor. All right, so you saw we were getting 75 to 80 frames per second where I was just standing. Now let's turn MSAA on ×2, like it was at the start of the video. Now we're going to get in the 50s to the low 60s. See, we're at 57, we're in the 60s. So let's talk about this. Now that I've turned MSAA on, you may know in this game that if you can run MSAA, it makes everything shinier. So now those rocks are really shiny, the ground is shinier. This rock in particular right here is much shinier. Again, this is hard to show with a camcorder, and I apologize for that. The truth is, I don't have any good way to record high frame rate gaming yet. I just don't. I normally use an Elgato capturing at 1080p, 60 frames per second, and when I want to go above 60 frames per second, I can't really. I can record the frame rate counter going higher than 60 frames per second, but I can't really show the game going higher than 60 frames per second. So I'm going to tell you right now, this looks amazing, all right? Even though it is only 63 frames per second right now. Now, as we go inland, we're going to get a lower frame rate. So you might ask yourself, AI, why would I even want a more expensive monitor at a higher frame rate monitor if I'm only going to be getting 65 frames per second? That's not worth it. You might think that, and I don't blame you for thinking that, but let me explain something to you about how Vsync works. All right? I know everybody loves to talk about G-Sync and FreeSync and all that, and I'm going to be honest with you. I've used G-Sync. I'm not a fan. I don't think G-Sync is there yet. G-Sync makes sacrifices, and I am really, look, we're in the 40s now. I am really surprised that other YouTubers haven't talked about this. G-Sync makes sacrifices that I'm not comfortable with. I don't feel like I feel like with G-Sync, the picture does not get as sharp as it does with traditional Vsync. And I care about the sharpness in my pictures. Now, you might ask yourself, especially in this area over here, because as we go more and more inland, remember we have a lot of graphics maxed out. As we go more and more inland, the graphics were kind of going into the 40s. So let's stop here where we're at 58, 60 frames per second. Now, you might be asking yourself, okay, why would I want a high refresh rate monitor if I'm only going to be in the 60s? What is the point? And I'm going to tell you this. Let's talk about Vsync. And when you have Vsync, the game is capping at 60 frames per second, but there's going to be dips. There's always going to be dips in your frame rate. Even when you use a G-Sync monitor, which I have, you still get dips in frame rate. Now the thing with the G-Sync monitor is it makes it so it's not as obvious. Your frame rate might go down 20 frames per second, and you don't really notice it with a G-Sync monitor. But if you notice that on your Vsync normal 60 hertz monitors, your $200 monitors and so on, you notice when there's that frame rate dip. Well, here is something cool that I figured out with this 144 hertz monitor. I have Vsync on, and I'm going to be honest with you, Vsync, not G-Sync. All right, I'm sorry if all this sounds confusing. Remember, I'm doing this video in one take. So even though this is Vsync, vertical sync, not G-Sync, not NVIDIA's G-Sync, even though this is Vsync, when the frame rate goes down, like it did over here into the 40s or whatever, it's not as noticeable as it would be on a 60 hertz monitor. On a 60 hertz monitor, it chugs more, it skips more, it stutters. Well, look, we just went into the 40s and I didn't feel anything in the controller, even though I'm not using G-Sync. And I'm not how do you say, I'm not an engineer or scientist or anything. I'm not even as smart as some of the YouTube channels that they've been doing PC gaming stuff for like years and years and years, and they really know everything that they're talking about. But let me take a stab at this. Let me tell you my guess as to why this why I don't notice it. It went from 60 to the 40s and I didn't notice it. There's no stutter, there's no lag, it doesn't feel like crap. My theory on this is when your game is capped at 60 frames per second, it somehow, how do I explain this? It's more noticeable when your cap is at 60 frames per second and then you go down to 48 like we are right now. But when your real cap is at 144, it's only 12 frames per second, right? Between 48 and 60. And I think that when your cap is at 144, for some reason it makes a difference. I think something to do with these games and how powerful modern graphics cards are, and the fact that, here, let's turn MSAA off. Okay, let's turn that off. And remember, we have the game, it's close to maxed out. I mean, I turned water down, I turned vegetation down, but the game is pretty close to maxed out to include fade touched textures. So when you have these modern graphics cards that can max the game out and do above 60 frames per second and even get up to 80 like we were earlier, I think capping them and forcing them to stay at 60 is part of what is causing the stutter. And I think that just simply having a 144 hertz ceiling instead of a 60 hertz ceiling, I think that helps solve a lot of the problem right there without you even needing G-Sync. Are you following what I'm saying? So look, and we're in the 80s right now. Of course, when we're near the water in this game, it's always going to be better. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always going to be a higher frame rate. Again, I'm doing this in one take. I apologize for any of the brain flubs. I'm not using a... here, let me go over here to the hinterlands. I'm not using a script. I'm doing this all just like in real time, live commentary showing you this. I'm doing this for a lot of reasons. I'm at a point where I've had this monitor for 4 weeks and I have to decide whether or not I'm going to keep it. I like to buy my stuff at local stores. I've talked about this in my videos before, because when you, let's say you buy something on Newegg, and no offense to Newegg, I'm sure they're a great company and they definitely have stuff in stock when your local store doesn't. You know, my local store has to order stuff like this and it takes a while to get it in and blah blah blah. But from my understanding, Newegg doesn't let you just return things willy-nilly. So I am in a position where I have to decide myself, is it worth it to keep this monitor? And I'm leaning towards yes, which is crazy when you really think about it. All right, it is crazy because I'm waiting for this game to load so I can see where we're at. Oh wow, he fell. And we're in the 60s for the frame rate. Now this is one thing that you're going to notice, even with Vsync on. Having Vsync on, by the way, with a higher refresh rate monitor is almost like having Vsync off on a 60 hertz monitor, in the sense that you will notice some wild swings in frame rate. And even with the G-Sync monitor, wild swings in frame rate. We were, it wasn't that high a second ago. I forget what it was, like 55, 60 or something, and now we're at 81, and it was in the 70s. And when we go around the corner here, it might go down again. Look, it's back into the 70s. But even though this frame rate is fluctuating, the game looks beautiful. All right, like it is a sight to behold. So, well, let me add something to that real quick. Crysis 3, in my opinion, does not look any better on the higher refresh rate monitor. Metal Gear Solid 5 does not look any better in the high refresh rate monitor. The Witcher 3 does not look any better with the high refresh rate monitor. Those are some pretty heavy hitting games right there. However, a lot of games do. This is one of them. So it ties into my thing, like, is it worth it to have this monitor? Is it worth it to pay $400 to have a 1080p monitor? And again, I'm leaning towards yes. And yeah, this looks really good in here. This looks really good. A lot of it depends on the game. I've noticed that different games and different engines actually, look, we're in the 60s now. There's normally a battle over here, like a pretty predictable battle to get into. Like, oh look, so let me tell you what looks better with a high refresh rate monitor. See the flames? Like particles and stuff look so much better on a higher refresh rate monitor. They look like magic. They really do. They look so much better. Like all that fire and the lightning and the ice that's trailing off of my staff as I walk, because I have an ice staff. All of that looks amazing. Looks amazing on this monitor. Looks so good, so satisfying. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to end this game. See how we're in the 60s? I came over here to see, because in the hinterlands I've noticed that this is an area where my frame rate swings a lot. Like we're in the 60s, the game just stuttered a little bit. And like this makes the game come alive, okay? I'm running around, I'm moving my camera. Sometimes I'm in the 60s, sometimes I'm in the 70s. Heaven forbid, sometimes I'm even in the 50s. And it still looks good. Let's turn on MSAA, because we've actually had MSAA off. This is another thing about high refresh rate monitors. So let me tell you this. Depending on the game engine, and this is one of them, and Tomb Raider 2013 is another of them, and Bioshock Infinite is another of them, and Borderlands 2 is another of them, depending on the engine for the game, higher refresh rate actually creates an MSAA type effect. It's not as strong as like flat out using MSAA, okay? But it gives you a multi-sampling effect. Like even right now we're in the 50s for the frame rate, and the fire looks even better. I can tell on the camcorder that fire looks really good. Now look at that. Look at that house. Look at that staff. Look at the stuff trailing off of the staff. There we go. Look at the stuff trailing off the staff. Look at the flame going to the left in that little pile. Look at the smoke coming off of it. Look at the house with the fire. This looks incredible. Now it already looked good before, but now that I have MSAA on, it looks really good. Here's the thing though. It looks good enough without MSAA that I could play the game without it and just enjoy it with my, 55 to 85 frame per second gameplay. Alright, now with MSAA on, you will experience more stuttering. MSAA is harder on a graphics card, and this is only a GTX 970. Now, I only wanted to show you this part to give you an idea of like how this performs and how beautiful it can look. Here, I'll play through the viewfinder to try to make it as appealing as possible. And I love all the particles. The particles look beautiful. Now, there is stuttering. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say, oh no, there's no stuttering, because there is. There is stuttering. But again, I think the game looks just fine without that. The MSAA is like the icing on the cake, right? But the cake is still pretty good without the icing. Alright, so let's turn the MSAA off. It's still going to look really good. So the question, again, that I'm going to keep asking over, look, that looks great. So much pop, so much separation, so much clarity. Here, now I'm looking through the viewfinder so that I can find the angles that show you guys how good this looks. Because it looks really, really fantastic. Look at that. Look at all those particles. Everything looks so much better on this monitor that, like, it's just smack your mama good. And it's only 1080p, and that's another thing. So with some games, I'm going to play different games now. With some games, 1080p on this monitor looks so good that I don't even care about 1440. I don't even care about 4K. I don't feel any need to upgrade. Now, so let's talk about why would a monitor be worth $400? Why would it? I mean, that's a lot of money for 1080p, man. Aren't you better off? Here, let me show you a game that does not look as good with the higher refresh rate. Let's do The Witcher 3. It still looks good. It's not going to look like crap, okay? But I'm going to show you, as well as you're going to be able to tell with a camcorder, that it looks fine on this monitor, but I wouldn't say it's such a better experience. Where Dragon Age Inquisition, hands down, I'll go on the record, that is a better experience with a higher refresh rate. So, what could make it worth $400 for a 1080p monitor? Well, let me give you a handful of reasons why. Okay? A lot of it comes down to money, really, if we're honest. See, you can make the argument that $400 is too much for a 1080p monitor. Okay, fine. Well, then what are you going to get? Are you going to get a 1440 monitor? Are you going to get a high refresh rate 1440? That's really the question. If you're going to go with a high refresh rate 1440 monitor or even a 4K monitor. And the thing is those monitors are obviously going to cost more money. Now, as you can see, look, I'm going to look through the viewfinder while I play this. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. And we're at 80 frames per second right now. And I'm pretty sure I have Hairworks on, guys. Yeah. Yeah, the GTX 970 is a pretty beastly graphics card. Let me show you Hairworks. Okay, so if you have a GTX 970 and you're going to use Hairworks, have it on, have the AA to 4, and then have the preset to low. And I actually have Hairworks on for everybody, not just Geralt. Alright, the rest of my settings are background characters low, shadow quality medium, terrain ultra, water low, grass medium, texture ultra, foliage medium, detail ultra, and hardware cursor on. Does that matter? I don't know. And this looks fantastic, all right? Oh yeah, I'm gonna turn off. Well, let me show you first. So we have Vsync on. And what did I tell you? A lot of you guys might not know this. If you have a high refresh rate monitor, your Vsync is fluid, right? Vsync is fine, guys. It's not stuttering. I don't see any input lag. It is, look at how fast this camera moves. Look how everything is, I got it to hitch. All right, like I had to go ape crap to make it hitch, but I got it to hitch. So if you use Vsync with a higher refresh rate monitor, it'll actually be, look, we're at 86 frames per second. Maybe you don't know that. Maybe you thought that even if you have a high refresh rate monitor, Vsync is going to cap you at 60. It does not. Look, now we're at 92 frames per second, and it looks beautiful. But let's see how high the frame rate goes if we turn Hairworks off. So go to video, go to graphics, Hairworks off. All right, give it a second. And we're in the 90s, hardcore in the 90s, now we're in the 80s. So I'll leave Hairworks off. Look, we just hit 100. The thing is, all right, look, a guy at GameSpot did a video on, is it worth it to do 4K 60 frames per second, or is it worth it to do high refresh rate at 1080p or 1440? And one of the guys said that he thought it was that The Witcher 3 looked better at 60 frames per second in 4K, but he thought that other games looked better at higher refresh rate at a lower resolution. You see what I'm saying? There is no hard and fast rule. Like, it really depends on the game. And at the time, I thought the dude was crazy. I was like, well, why wouldn't you want The Witcher to be at a higher refresh rate? And playing it in person, I'm going to tell you, this looks really, really good. This does not at all look bad. However, I will tell you that it looks just fine at 62. So this is one of those games where I don't really feel like it has to be a high refresh rate. Like, this game looks great at 60 frames per second. Whereas Dragon Age Inquisition, when I use my 970 with the exact same settings on my 60 hertz panel, I get more stuttering, I get more chop, I get more frames dropped, It's just it's a lesser experience. The particles don't look as good. Everything about playing Dragon Age Inquisition is better on the high refresh rate monitor. And this is still beautiful. Like, I'm looking in the viewfinder right now and I can tell this is still pretty daggone good looking. All right. So let's go back to, I was making a point. I was making a point where I was saying, is it worth it to pay $400 for a 1080p monitor? Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. A good high refresh rate 1440p monitor is going to cost at least this much or more. It depends on the monitors. I'd have to look around. I'm sure there's some cheap ones. But if you look at something like the Acer Predator monitor, which I'm going to be honest with you, like here's where I was. I planned on getting the Acer Predator monitor. That's what I was going to get. I wasn't even going to deal with this monitor. I didn't want this. I wanted the Acer Predator. Well, the Acer Predator is $800, give or take. Sometimes it goes as low as $760. But okay, let's talk about this. The Acer Predator is supposed to be a really great IPS 144 hertz monitor. People say fantastic things about it. It comes highly recommended from a lot of the YouTubers. But even they admit that they have received monitors with dead pixels. Okay? And then I've read a lot of reviews on Amazon. The Acer Predator has had so many problems, guys, that Amazon quit selling it from, you know, like when it says shipped and sold by Amazon, Amazon themselves quit selling it from, you know, their store. You could still buy it on Amazon from other stores, but Amazon had so many returns, so many people were saying that they got bad monitors, and even YouTubers that I've watched have said, okay, they got the Acer Predator and they went through 2 bad monitors and then the third one was finally good. But I've read reviews online that say that they've had the Acer Predator for like 5 or 6 weeks and then monitors died on it. Here, I'm going to quit this game. I'm going to play some other games. So they've said that then they've had, let me see, let me pick real quick. Borderlands 2 is really great. Actually, Bioshock Infinite. Bioshock Infinite is really, really great with high refresh rate. Bioshock Infinite was like the first game. Oh no, I can't have MSI Afterburner on. Okay, the game's probably going to crash. Unless I saved it. Okay, I might have saved it. Afterburner crashes this game. The point is, the Predator has had a lot of problems, okay, quality-wise. So I realize that if I get one, I may have those kind of issues to deal with. It's about an $800 monitor, okay? Let me load a chapter real quick before I get too confused. I can't read and talk at the same time. I don't know if you guys have that problem, but I do. All right, and let me get a drink real quick. Hold on, guys. All right, I'm back. Let me see if I have another cough drop. Like I said, I'm doing this in one take. I really appreciate you guys being patient with me. I try to give you guys really thorough product reviews and demonstrations. I try to do a really good job. But sometimes it takes a while to record these things. And what I like to do, especially in a situation like this, I like to give you guys, I would love to just upload this video straight from the camera to YouTube. So I'm not running it through movie editing software and affecting the image quality in any way. Now we are getting 115 frames per second. Let's look at the settings real quick. Graphics, ultra, very high, alternate, high. I do turn ambient occlusion down as a personal preference. This is pretty much maxed out. It's just I have ambient occlusion on high and I have dynamic shadows on very high, but other than that, it's maxed out. And I can max it out at a certain point, but for aesthetic reasons, I feel like the settings I use look better. Now, this is the game that sold me on high refresh rate. There is so much pop and separation and clarity. I'm going to have to get up and point at the screen. All right, look. This looks like a freaking Disney cartoon on a high refresh rate monitor. everybody had always talked about how good Bioshock Infinite looks. All right? And it looks like a Disney cartoon in high refresh rate. When I played it 60 frames per second, I thought it looked good, but I thought it was overrated. I thought the people who talked about how good it looked, I thought they were overrating the game. Whereas on this monitor, it deserves all the praise. It looks like a Disney cartoon. It is amazing. So let me wrap up my one thought. The more I do this video, the more I feel like this probably will be the review of the monitor. So let me wrap up the Acer Predator, the is it worth $400 for this and so on. Let me just stand here for a second, undistracted, and make this point to you before I go on with the demonstration. This is a $400 monitor, but an Acer Predator is a $760 monitor. Okay, this is a monitor that looks great with the GTX 970. Even though Dragon Age Inquisition only gets, 60 to 80 frames per second maxed out, or 55 to 85 frames per second almost maxed out, it's still beautiful. It is still noticeably better with a GTX 970. All right, so let's do some math. $400 monitor, $300 graphics card. Let's call it a $350 graphics card. Let's say you get one of the nicer factory overclock GTX 970s. Okay, it's still 380 plus 350, which, man, I wish I knew math. Okay, so 380 plus 300 is going to be 680 plus 50 is going to be 730. All right, so that is a $730 investment between this monitor and a GTX 970. All right, and some of these games, I promise you, look so good in 1080p that I have no desire to even bother with 4K because it looks good. Look, I'm a graphics whore. I am picky. If it did not look good, I would actually, for sure, pony up the money and go with the Predator. So the GTX 970 plus this graphics card is already less than just the Predator. Now, some of you might be saying, like, well, okay, well, I wouldn't get the Predator. I'd get another monitor and this, that, or the other. And all right, that's a fair point. But here's the thing. I've looked up the 144 hertz monitors with not 144. I've looked up the 1440p monitors with a 60 hertz refresh rate because that's actually what I was looking at first. Even the BenQ one has a 4 millisecond gray to gray, where this has a 1 millisecond gray to gray. And it's higher refresh rate. Now, have I used a 4-second gray to gray monitor? No, I have not, actually, because even my cheaper RL2455HM is a 1 millisecond gray to gray. So I've never used the 4 milliseconds, but plenty of people have said if you're serious about games, then there actually is a difference between the 1 millisecond and the 4 millisecond. And keep in mind, even the Acer Predator, I believe, has a 4 millisecond gray to gray, although people are saying it's so beautiful that it's worth it. Like, the trade-off is worth it, and it's not that big of a trade-off considering how beautiful it is. All right, let me tell you another thing. The GTX 960 actually looks really good with this monitor. Now, when you play Dragon Age Inquisition, I have the settings lower than what you saw. Okay, there's like 2 or 3 settings where instead of being maxed out, they're 1 notch below maxed out. Okay, and running MSA A×2 is not going to happen at all. It's not going to happen. Don't do it. But I can still get the game to play 60, 70 frames per second and look really good with a GTX 960. GTX 960 is a $200 card. Okay, so now you take a $200 card and a $380 monitor, and now you're only paying $580. Okay, that's not bad, guys. That is not bad, and it's still a fantastic experience. I would not have taken the time to make this video if it was not a fantastic experience. So some of you might be wondering, like, okay, he keeps saying it's a fantastic experience, so why was this so hard to review? Why was it so hard to make this decision? And I'll tell you, there's a lot of games like The Witcher 3, Crysis 3, Metal Gear Solid 5, big heavy-hitting games that, in my opinion, don't look any better at a higher refresh rate. And here's the thing, is like, you can actually get those games to be 70, 80, 90, 100 frames per second. Hell, The Witcher 3, I showed you, is 100 frames per second. It did not look any better at 100 frames per second than it does at 60. Dragon Age, Inquisition looked better at 75 frames per second than it did 60. Are you understanding me? It varies game to game. So it's not a slam dunk. It's not one of those things where your entire library is going to look better at 144 hertz or 75 hertz or so on. So is that, to me, that kind of blunts the value proposition. Now let's go back into how this looks like a Disney cartoon. If you watch Disney Blu-rays, or even if like your cable TV provider has the Disney Channel, Disney Junior in particular from my cable provider, looks almost Blu-ray quality, okay? Like it looks beautiful. If you watch a Disney cartoon in a super high quality format, you will notice that there's multiple layers to what's on the screen, okay? And the main, I'm talking about the cartoons, not the CGI computer stuff, the actual cartoons, you know, the stuff they made all the way up to the 90s. So in those cartoons, you can tell that the characters are like these cell shaded models that are on the front layer, and then behind them is a layer, and behind that is a layer, and behind that is a layer. This game has layers to it like a Disney cartoon when you play it at 144 hertz like we are right now. And the GTX 970 can play it at 144 hertz and it looks incredible. This flag is popping against the background. The characters pop. Everything pops with different strengths, if that makes sense. Everything pops differently. Now, another thing, and one of the reasons why I chose this level, and all I'm going to do now is I'm going to sprint through this level. Notice how smooth, even on a camcorder I can tell. Notice how smooth this motion is. And then I just saw like the sand blowing away. Whoa, here's one of the things that is amazing on this monitor. Okay, again, some games at a higher refresh rate have a multi-sampling effect. Okay? They have a multi-sampling effect that looks incredible. This clarity, when I look at the wood right here, when I look at the floor, almost makes me think, and I know this is like ignorance on my part to say this because I've not played the game in 4K on a proper 4K monitor, but compared to my RL2455HM, which makes games look really good, the detail and the clarity and the pop and the strength of this image feels like 4K in comparison to even my 60 hertz monitor. It is outstanding, and there's so much. Again, it's because of the higher frame rate. As you look at this picture right here, all right, I'm going to have to point at my computer monitor while I look in my, oh, I didn't mean to do that, sorry. I dropped the controller. I'm going to have to point at the monitor while I look at the viewfinder on the camera, okay? So here we go. We're going to do this. I'm looking at it right now. You can see the lighting is so beautiful with this monitor. The floor here is darker, and then there's a little more light here, and then this is like a painting. What I've noticed is this game is a work of art on a higher refresh rate monitor. All right, this Bioshock Infinite on a higher refresh rate monitor with the settings turned up is like a work of art. Like, there are so many places where you can just stand still and it looks as good as a framed painting. And that's not hyperbolic. That's not me just making things up. I mean, it looks that freaking good. And how this little buggy here is in the shadow, and like part of this is dark, but then part of it is lit. And then especially like these little life preservers never really meant anything to me, but they're so crisp and they pop against the background. And this is only 1080p. I mean, this could be this image right here where I just randomly stopped. This could be the screensaver for my computer. Not the screensaver, but you know, my desktop background. So we go in here and look at that lighting. Look at that lighting on the door. Look at the detail on the door. And then look at the motion. This game greatly benefits from the enhancement to motion. A lot of what they did in this game is motion related, especially the water. So when you have this monitor, it's a tremendous improvement. It is just mind-blowing. Now I wish I hadn't stood still for so long earlier. I wish I would have because I want to show you something further in here, but I don't really want to stay in this game forever. I probably should have kept it moving earlier, and I apologize that I stood in one place for so long. I was trying to speak without distraction is what it comes down to. Look at the shadows. Look at even through the camcorder viewfinder, I can tell. Like, look at the shadows, look at the clarity in her face, the clarity in your character's hand as he points. You can see there's so many layers to this. And the way she moves, this game is just... When I play this game in 144 hertz, even though it doesn't stay at 144 hertz the whole time, this game is what sold me on high refresh rate. Well, actually, I say that, but I had played Borderlands 2 a long time ago. Look at this. Look at the lighting in here. Look at this. And I'm telling you, at 60 hertz, all of this nuance is not there. I always thought this game was kind of boring, kind of overrated when I played it at 60 hertz. I now realize that this game comes to life at higher refresh rate. Okay? But again, not every game does. Look at that. Look how beautiful the pop and separation is. This is like, I lose my mind over how good this looks, even at 1080p. And let's go, while we're waiting here, let's go back to that. So the question is it worth it to pay $400 for a monitor? Look at the pop and the separation. Like the thimble on her finger, I never really cared about it. I thought like, okay, so she has a thimble on her finger. But even something like that really pops on this monitor. It is just a feast for the eyes to play this game at a higher refresh rate. So the value proposition is actually really strong with a lot of games. However, it's like I told you, look at this. Look, there's layers upon layers upon layers, and everything pops. But like I told you, some games like The Witcher 3, Metal Gear Solid 5 actually disappointed me. Because I was like, oh, Metal Gear Solid 5, that's a pretty good looking game. And I played that. Oh, look at the shine on that door. Look at the shine. It doesn't shine like that on my 60 hertz monitor. Maybe it does on yours, but it doesn't for me. And then look at that floor. Look at the shine on the floor. And see the lighting on the floor? I'm telling you guys, this game is a feast for the eyes at the 144 hertz refresh rate. It is just incredible. So, like I said, Metal Gear Solid 5 does not look any better. Of course, it does have a cap. It does have, it's got a hard cap built into it at 60 frames per second, in case you didn't know that. Look at this lighting. Look at these shadows. Look at the clarity, the pop, the separation. And this is just with a lowly GTX 970 playing at 1080p. I'm about to shut this game off. So yeah, this game looks freaking fantastic. We're going to run into one more door and we're going to shut it off. So this game looks great on this monitor. Dragon Age Inquisition looks great on this monitor. The Witcher 3, Metal Gear Solid 5 don't really look any better on this monitor. And also, like I told you, Metal Gear Solid 5 has a hard cap at 60 frames per second. And no, I haven't changed it to let me go to a higher frame rate because I don't know if that's going to break it or... Oops, sorry. Sorry, I hit the tripod. I don't know if that's going to break it or not. Let me show you Grand Theft Auto 5. Grand Theft Auto... Oh, I don't have Afterburner on. I guess I don't need it on, though. Oh, wait a minute. Let me close this real quick. Sorry. I may have already showed you my login details. I don't know. I've been told that you should not... Server error. Oh, I've been told that you should not show... like your log, not even just your password, but you shouldn't show anything of your login details when you make these kinds of videos, because unfortunately you never know who's going to then try to hack your library and take it over. You know, like I've seen a lot of YouTubers who won't even show what their Steam account is called. You know, and maybe they started their Steam account before their channel and it uses their real name and so on. Oh, by the way, Grand Theft Auto 5, it does look better with this graphics card. It does look better on this monitor. It does look better in higher refresh rate. And you know what? Even with the GTX 960, you can get 70, 80 frames per second with this monitor. I kid you not. You can get 70 to 80 frames per second with a GTX 960 with a lot of the settings turned up. I should say a 4 gigabyte 960 will load the highest level of textures. I don't think they're called ultra. I think they're called very high. The highest level of textures will load with the 4 gigabyte GTX 960, but they won't with the 2 gigabyte. So that's something to keep in mind. But even with the GTX 960, it makes this look really good. All right, so what else makes it hard for me to review this monitor? Okay, let's talk about that. As a general use monitor, it kind of sucks, which is really weird. Here, let me make sure I have this framed properly. Which is really weird. I feel weird having to say that, and I'll tell you why. My RL2430, oh wait a minute, we're going to have to do some things with the graphics, okay? If you do high refresh rate with this monitor, I have to tell you that for some reason you have to keep changing the refresh rate. If it won't go up higher above 60 like you need it to, you have to change it. Well, it was set at 60. Here, let me see what our settings are now. Very high, high. Will I have to restart the game if I do this? That's the question. No, I don't. Okay. This actually might be my normal settings, which means I don't have to restart the game, which is good. Yeah, we should be good to go. Well, let me check. I think I've got it pretty close to maxed out. Let me check so I'm accurate. Look, population density, population variety, distance scaling, all maxed out. I'll get back to this sucking as a general use monitor, I promise. Very high, max. Let's turn on the reflection quality at ×4. Water quality high, that's not max. Particles, very high, that's maxed. Grass is high. When you're in the city, if you have grass above high, you're fine, but once you go out into the woods, the frame rate really tanks. So I kind of have to, I keep it on high. The game looks better when you put grass on very high, not gonna lie. But then with a GTX 970, even the frame rate is not that good out in the woods. So that's why I do this. Post effects are very high. Actually, I guess we can put those on ultra. I won't do that yet though. So that's not maxed. Time 16 is maxed. Depth of field is on. Ambient occlusion, tessellation, those are maxed. All right, and look at the frame rate. 118 frames per second. Ballin'. 129 frames per second. Ballin'. Look how good this looks with the GTX 970. Now this game, higher frame rate looks better. Now why do I point that out? Well, first of all, this is a pretty popular, look at that. Look at the reflections. They're effing, the reflections are like sick. They are so insane with the higher refresh rate monitor. Like they are no joke. And then look at the pool. Look at the pool. Like that looks like you're really looking into a swimming pool. The way the lighting is in the water. I mean, that it's like sick. Okay, now we're in the 90s. When you go around this corner over here, the frame rate does go down. Not here. Not here, but when you go here. So we're at 108. And it went down to 105. I've seen it go down harder with the GTX 960. But again, this is a 970. Oh, wait a minute. Let me turn on, I forgot we are using a 970. So let me see what the graphics look like with MSAA on. With a 960, you cannot use MSAA in this game. You can, but your frame rate's going to go down a lot. It's not worth it. Is it up here? Yeah. All right. Let's apply it. Ooh. It went down. Okay, now we're in the 70s. Honestly, the high frame rate to me looks better. MSAA to me, if you're going to play the game with a 970 or a strong graphics card on a 60 Hz monitor, then I say use MSAA. But if you're using a high refresh rate monitor, I think it looks so good without MSAA ×2 or MSAA times anything that you can just skip it and enjoy the higher frame rate. Now we're still at 80 frames per second, and this doesn't look bad. And actually, in some ways, the reflection pops harder. Everything looks stronger. But I'm telling you guys, there is something addicting about how responsive high frame rate gaming feels. And I would prefer the high frame rate smoothness to having MS. And we're at 90 frames per second, guys, with MSAA times 2, and I'm still saying I would go without the MSAA. But look, that is a personal preference. That is highly subjective. Look at this. Hello, pretty car, and pretty garage, and pretty lighting. Look at that reflection. Look how good that looks. Even on a camcorder, I can tell that looks really good. Okay, so let's get back to what I was saying about why it's so hard to review this monitor. For a multi-use monitor, it kind of sucks. And I feel weird saying that. My RL2455HM is a $179 60 hertz monitor made for gaming. Okay, 1 millisecond gray to gray, made for gaming. It's actually made for console gaming, which is part of why it has a 60 hertz refresh rate. But it still looks really good PC gaming. We're only in the 60s for the frame rate. But again, keep this in mind, because we're not on a 60 hertz monitor, when it wants to go up to 90 frames per second like it did in the house, you have the headroom to do that. Or the 68 frames per second right now, you have the headroom to do that. And remember, we also have MSAA times 2 on. Here, let's turn that off. Let's turn off the MSAA. So my RL2455HM, my cheaper monitor, in my opinion, is better. For watching YouTube videos, for watching movies, even for editing content. So sometimes I do actually edit my videos, guys. Sometimes I have videos where I just have to edit them. And when I do, I edit them on my cheap RL2455HM. And it's a good experience. The thing is, with this more expensive monitor, this XL2430T, for some reason, things don't look right on it outside of gaming, if that makes sense. Oh, let me tell you what does look really good. The desktop looks amazing on this monitor. The desktop looks the best I've ever seen a desktop, if that makes sense. Like, it is to see like your little windowed applications as you move them around and drag them with the mouse. Because it's a high refresh rate, they move very smoothly and everything feels really good. It's like really, really nice. So look, we're at 100 frames per second. Of course, the beach is cheating. You always get a higher frame rate at the beach. So anyway, I'm going to turn MSA back on for the rest of this. So anyway, for some reason, this monitor doesn't... Oh, FXAA is on. FXAA sucks. No wonder it doesn't look quite as good as I thought it did. There we go. That looks better. This monitor, when I edit videos, does not look right, if that makes sense. When I watch YouTube videos, does not look right. When I watch movies and stuff, does not look right. So, if this was your only monitor, this is where it becomes really hard to recommend this monitor. If this was your only monitor, I kind of think it's not the worst thing I've ever used in my life, but it's noticeably not that great for everyday tasks. And one of the highest rated user reviews on Amazon says the same thing. So watching YouTube videos like you're doing right now, I don't think they look as good on this monitor. And editing movies and stuff, I don't think it looks as good on this monitor. Are you following what I'm saying? I think this monitor is so good for gaming. I think the motion looks good. And honestly, it's almost like having G-Sync in a lot of games, because even with the frame rate swinging around, I don't really notice it. I mean, I look at the frame rate counter and I know that the frame rate is changing, but it doesn't feel like crap. Where now there is some stuttering as I'm playing this because I'm using MSAA, and I have played this game with the G-Sync monitor, and I will tell you, you'd almost not notice the stuttering at all with G-Sync, but the stuttering's not bad. Like, it only happens sometimes when I'm like doing a 90-degree turn at high speed, and I do the power slide and I do that. Like, there's a little bit of stutter, but we also have the graphics almost maxed out. and we have MSAA on ×2, and we have Vsync on. So yes, in those moments, there is a little bit of stutter, but not much. Like just now, it didn't stutter just now, and I thought it would. It stuttered maybe 5 or 6 times total since I've started the video. So for gaming, I think this monitor is just so much fun, so unbelievable. But honestly, my RL2455HM, my $179 monitor, is a better all-around monitor. Like if it was the only monitor I had. Now here's the crazy thing about that. Everything looks crisper on this monitor. Here, let's play a different game. Everything looks crisper on this monitor, to include YouTube and everything. So in a way, it almost sounds crazy that I'm saying that things don't look as good. Let's see, what are we going to pick? Bioshock looks great on here. Grand Theft Auto 5 looks great on here. Metal Gear Solid 5. These don't. These are my undecideds. I haven't played these enough. Oh, Sleeping Dogs looks really great on here. I just wanted to show you guys Sleeping Dogs. Do I want to do that? I almost wish you guys could vote on what you wanted to see on this. Actually, let's do. Oh shit! Pretend you guys didn't see that. Okay, just be chill. Don't steal my games, please. Anyway, I don't want to have to edit that out. So let's do Far Cry 4 and let's pretend that never happened. Let's keep it moving. So I'm going to show you how good Far Cry 4 looks on here. If this was my only monitor, I wouldn't say I love it. I wouldn't say it's unusable. I wouldn't say it's bad. A lot of it has to do with there are so many settings on here. I haven't even shown you that, guys. I'm going to have to do like... Okay, so look. In the menu, you have a million settings. You have game settings. There's blur reduction. I don't use blur reduction, okay? I'll leave that alone. But black equalizer, yeah. I typically have it on 4. The higher you put this, the lighter blacks look. See how that looks gray now that I put it up? So I normally have it on 4, which is close to black. Believe it or not, having it on 1 does not look good. I've seen reviewers tell you to leave it on 1. Don't do that. Color vibrance. Okay, so if you have color vibrance lower than 10, I've noticed... Sorry, I don't want this menu to go away. So I've noticed that if you have color vibrance lower than 10, the game colors look pale. If you have color vibrance higher than 10, even by one setting, look, see that 4? That 4 here, let's see if it'll show it here. This isn't as obvious. Well, the elephant, look at the elephant. The elephant has some brown to him. You go down to 9, he goes gray. All right? So go back to 10. You pop it up. 11 actually didn't look that bad just now. But there's a lot of stuff in this game, not this game, but there's a lot of games and stuff in general where color vibrance above 10 is way oversaturated, it's blurry, it doesn't look good, and then color vibrance below 10 is pale. Now you can change this though to your preference. Low blue light, I don't mess with it, I don't think it's that great. Some people love it, I'm not a big fan of it. Instant mode, I have that on. I've never tried it off. I like the way it is now, so I haven't tried it off. Game mode is off. Here, let me pause the game real quick. Actually, I'll go to my settings. Maybe you'll be able to see the graphic settings behind this. Alright. So those are game settings. Then for picture, you have picture mode, which I have on FPS 1. As you change these, it will look drastically different. On my RL2455HM, I keep it on RTS 1. I'm not going to go through all of these. These different modes, I'm going to be honest with you, FPS 1 is the only one that looks good to me. Just like on my other monitor, RTS 1 is the only one that looks good to me. And this is a subjective thing. These, I don't even really know what they do per se. Just looking at them makes it look like they make different things pop on the screen. Remember, this monitor is kind of being sold for like the Counter-Strike Go kind of guys. This monitor's being sold as basically you can tweak the picture to look how you want for competitive gaming. So you can make it so it's not a beautiful picture per se, but different things stand out on the screen, so you have a competitive edge when it comes to like seeing your enemy against the background. You follow what I'm saying? All right, so then there's contrast. I normally do not have brightness on 100, by the way. I just have it on 100 for this video. So then there's contrast. I have it at 50. There's sharpness. I have it at 10. There's gamma. I have gamma 4. You can change the... so they get brighter, actually. The gamma 1 is the brightest, and then the gamma coloring changes. I'll be honest with you, YouTube videos, if I used gamma 1, would probably look better. And this is the issue. I have not found a group of settings between my gamma, between my black level, between my picture mode, all these things that look good for everything. Whereas on my RL2455HM, I found settings where I set it one time and it looks good for everything. YouTube looks good, editing movies looks good, blah, blah, blah. I think to get the most out of this monitor, you have to use your custom profiles, okay? I'll show you that in a second. My AMA, which is like, I think that affects the refresh rate or whatever, is on high. That I use high on my other monitor too. You have off and premium. Dynamic contrast is at 0. And then, what else is there? Oh, hold on. Go down to display. I'm not going to... See, some of this you're going to have to play with to really understand, all right? So let's go to system settings. Now, what I want to do is I'm actually trying to see where the user profiles are. Because you can have user profiles. You can save... Maybe it's the gamer123, I'm not sure. I know you can save profiles, guys, okay? I don't get into all that. When I have a monitor, I want one setting to be great for everything. And I know some of you listening to this are going to say, well, that's not realistic to expect that. And you're right, because gaming at a high refresh rate in a competitive environment, maybe you're going to want a different profile than what you use for movie editing. Maybe you're going to want a different profile than what you use for YouTube watching. And for what it's worth, this graphics card, this monitor comes with a little, I'm putting my hand here, it comes with a little round control thing that has 3 numbers on it, and you can switch between your custom profiles. And I think that realistically, if I took the time to create custom profiles for this monitor, what I could do is switch between them. Okay, so I'm gaming, I'm going to use this profile. I am watching YouTube videos, I'm going to pick this profile. I'm watching movies, I'm going to pick this one. I'm editing movies, I'm going to pick this one. I don't like fussing with all of that. So when I say this is kind of sucks as a multi-use monitor, keep in mind that there's actually a lot of settings that you can change that I have not taken the time to do because they frustrate me. Guys, like, as simple as it sounds, here, let me show you these settings real quick. Okay, I mean, look, this is off, simulated, off, off, and then you were able to see those the whole time. This looks beautiful, all right? I'm looking at it on the screen, and it's one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. Now I'm looking at it in the viewfinder on the camcorder. I can tell that you guys can't necessarily tell that it's one of the best things that anyone's ever seen, but it is, okay? Like in real life, the settings that I'm using on the monitor, the settings that I'm using in the game, this is one of the best looking games I've ever seen in my life on this monitor, which is one of the reasons why I'm showing you this. Also, so let me tell you something. You don't have to be a Counter-Strike Go player to get the most out of this monitor or to get a lot out of it. When I use my RL2455HM, when a truck is driving by, I actually find it kind of difficult to shoot the driver like I just did. So what I do is I just blow their truck up like that, okay? With this monitor, because it's got the extra smoothness for the control, and because it's got the extra clarity in the picture, and because things are crisper and they pop better, and motion is processed better, I actually have more things I can do, like shoot a dude through the windshield, and you saw I did that like flawlessly. So I will tell you this, it will make playing games easier for you. Is it going to make you win more matches in multiplayer? I don't know. I'm not going to say that. I do feel confident saying, though, that it definitely helps me do a better job shooting bad guys in single player. A way better job. Granted, that dude was just sitting there, so you might think like, okay, well, how is that so hard? Well, the image is so crisp, and even with a controller, the movement is so smooth that like I miss way fewer shots. As I missed that one right there because I'm a moron. But I miss fewer shots, okay, overall. So I find at least a single... Wow, that dude was like right there. Look at that headshot. I get so many more headshots with this monitor. Now again, I am not at all going to tell you that this will make you better in competitive multiplayer. I am not going to say that. I will tell you that like I'm not the world's greatest gamer. I don't have the world's greatest skill level, but I definitely play much better on this monitor. So I'm going to be wrapping this video up here pretty soon. Should I try another game? Actually, here, let me do my world famous little graphics test. What I do is I go over here to this little location, and I get in a buzzer, and then I fly to the brick factory. Let me get a drink real quick. So it's not as evident on the camcorder, but the game looks much better on this monitor, even with a GTX 960, than it does on a 60 hertz monitor. However, Far Cry 3, oddly enough, I don't know if it looks better on this monitor or not. I've not decided yet. It's a toss-up. If it does, it's not so much better that it's blatantly obvious, but the engine in this game has a lot of stuff going on. Like there's a bird that was picking up an animal over there. You might not have seen it. The buzzer's flying. It's rendering all these different trees, the buildings. There's people driving around. There's people inside of the vehicles that they're driving. There's so much stuff going on in this game that it benefits from the higher refresh rate. Remember, movement is going to be better on this monitor, and there's so many little things moving at once that you might not notice. And keep in mind, this game, even on the lowest settings possible, actually shows the wind independently blowing the trees and the grass, whereas the console, the PS4 and the Xbox One, I don't think they had that. All right, even though they're not optimized at the lowest settings. So there's a lot going on in this game. There's a lot of motion that you might not even realize is there that looks better. Even when you fly this thing, there's a little thing swinging around right there. And when you're driving a vehicle, there's usually something hanging from the rear view mirror. So there's always something catching your eye movement-wise, or even if it doesn't catch your eye. Like, even if you don't even notice it, it's there. There is a ton of stuff that's very visible in this game that benefits from the higher refresh rate. So here we are in the 80s. Do I have any ASA? Do I have any anti-aliasing on is the question. No, it's off. I generally play with it off, even with the GTX 970, because this game will stutter with MSAA on. Now this game will stutter without it on too, but it really stutters with it on. It has to do with the way the game loads stuff. So MSAA times 4 in particular looks really good in this game. But honestly, I feel like you need a GTX 980 to enjoy it. Now, a lot of people have told me, well, AI, you know, you can do SMAA with this game. And you're right, you can do SMAA with this game. Look how good that looks. Now, I know you can't see the full beauty. I'm looking through the viewfinder right now. But see how that mountain contrasts with the skyline? I mean, this is just a joy. And the movement is so good. It's so fluid on this monitor. It's addicting. It makes me want to play Far Cry 4 all day. Like, it just makes me want to do nothing but play Far Cry 4. Which is almost a 1-year-old game, and I have a channel dedicated to showing performance for different games, including new ones. So I can't play this all day, but I want to. Oh, by the way, a lot of people don't like the story in Far Cry 4, and they think the story was better in Far Cry 3. But let me tell you what Far Cry 4 does. Far Cry 4 is kind of like Metal Gear Solid 5 in the sense that it's got all these mechanics and systems in place, and the joy is in the gameplay. All right, it just stuttered. So yeah, Far Cry 4 is a good experience on this graphics card. Is Far Cry 3, I keep saying graphics card. Far Cry 4 is a good experience on this monitor. Is it a good experience on the with Far Cry 3? It is, but it's Far Cry 4. I notice a greater benefit of using high refresh rate. Okay, so going back to what I said earlier, I guess let me do Borderlands 2. Maybe this will be the last game I show you guys. Although Sleeping Dogs looks really good, but I guess I'm not gonna have time to do that because this is already, I don't even know how long this video is. I'm using like a prosumer camcorder, and it thinks it's cute by not showing like a normal time lapse, like how far I am into the video. It's got some number system I truly don't understand. It doesn't just say, hey man, your video is like 25 minutes long or something like that. It's got extra numbers and stuff, and a lot of times it's not, the numbers don't even really line up. So I apologize for all that. All right, we're at 120 frames per second for all this. I mean, it's obviously load screens and all that. So for a multi-use monitor, if you take the time to change, oh, and I didn't even tell you, so here's one of the worst parts that really annoys me about this. Go into the menu, go into picture, go down to color temperature. This is the worst, okay? This is color temperature that somebody on the internet recommended, and I actually don't even agree with it. The games actually look better with different color temperature than what I'm using right now. You can change the color temperature to make these games look like rich and vibrant and beautiful. But the thing is I've noticed that if I get the game to look rich and vibrant and beautiful color temperature wise, all right, how do I get out of here? Hold on, let me figure out how to get out of here. I gotta look at the map. Yeah, I want to go over here. All right, where's my waypoint? Yeah, where is my waypoint? Is it here? Okay, so, oh yeah, on this monitor, even like the reflections in the water here, because this is not like the world's most graphically impressive game, but again, you get a multi-sampling effect with this high refresh rate. So even like the water there looks really good. And even like the gun models are not that high resolution or whatever, but they look so much better on this monitor. All right, so like I was saying, if you take the time to set up your own custom profiles for movie editing, movie watching, gaming, stuff like that, I actually think you'll get more out of this monitor than I do. But for me, I only use this monitor for gaming. And for a lot of people, paying $400 for a monitor that they just use for gaming is going to be BS. That is going to be like, that's a no-go. And I think that's fair. I think most people, if they pay $400 for a monitor, want it to be good for everything. And I think it's fair to want that. All right? I think it's fair to expect that. And the problem is, for my usage, I don't really want to have to keep going through everything, you know? I don't want to have to set up different profiles. So what I've been doing since I've been using this monitor is, if I'm going to watch YouTube videos and if I'm going to edit a movie or whatever, I just use my old RL2455HM, which, to be honest with you, I don't need a higher refresh rate to edit movies, because YouTube, while they might have 60 frame, they might have 4K and 1440 and 1080p and all that. While YouTube might, I'm letting my gun warm back up so I can use it again. So while YouTube might have different and higher resolutions than 1080p, they don't have a higher frame rate than 60. So I don't really need a higher frame rate than 60 to edit my movies. So I'm still using my RL2455HM, believe it or not. All right. Oh, things like when they throw the rocks at you with the higher refresh rate, it's easier to dodge them. Now you would think the 60 frames per second is going to be plenty good enough, right? But the 144 refresh rate ceiling honestly makes playing games easier. I think I need to increase the brightness. I think I was using, yeah. On my other monitor, I don't need it as bright. So, okay, yeah, now it looks so much better now. There we go. So much better. Anyway, I know this has been a long video, guys. I know this has been a long video, but I try to be thorough. So maybe this would be a good all-around use monitor. Here, I'm going to quit. Maybe this would be a good all-around use monitor if you play with all the settings over here. If you tweak all of this, and if you create custom user profiles, okay? And again, you can, this black equalizer right here, you can make the picture darker. There we go. See how like the shadows got like much darker right here? Actually this game could benefit from being darker if we're honest. So 4 is like where I keep it because most games look good at 4. There are some games where I have to go up to 7 though for them to look better. And there are some games where I might have to go down to 2 or 3 for them to look better. But there's a lot of tweaking that you can do to the image quality. And on one hand, that's a blessing. Like seriously, if you're a person who only plays Counter-Strike Go and you're just going to set this one time and like this is going to be the monitor that you use to give you the competitive edge, a lot of what I complain about is not going to apply to you. But if you're going, and I think most people fall into this next camp, if you are going to be using this monitor for a broader array of things like playing adventure games and role-playing games and quest games and real-time strategy games and stuff like that, and watching YouTube videos and writing school papers on it and things like that, then you got to do a lot of tweaking. And it's one of those things where like I think a lot of people would say, well, AI, isn't it great that there's all those settings? I would say on one hand, yes, but on the other hand, it is so much easier for me to find an all-around picture quality that I love on my RL2455HM. So let's get down to brass tacks on recommendations here. All right, let's get down to brass tacks. And if you guys skipped to the end of the video to hear this part, that's cool. I'm not upset at all. I get it. I keep giving props to my RL2455HM. So would I say that it's better than this monitor or worse? I don't know, guys. There are some games that are so much easier to play and so much more beautiful and high refresh rate that I like having the high refresh rate monitor, okay? But if I had to only have one monitor and I didn't want to spend a lot of money, well, if you don't want to spend a lot of money, I don't know why you would even be interested in this kind of monitor. I mean, it's $400. But if you didn't have a lot of money to spend, I think you could be happy with the RL2455HM. That's the cheaper monitor, the 179 monitor, $179 US, 60 hertz refresh rate. I think you could be happy with it. Okay, 60 frames per second gaming is enjoyable. It doesn't suck. Okay, even when games look better at a higher refresh rate, it's not like they suck at 60. Okay, it's not like they look like trash at 60. Although I would say, and I kid you not, I kind of think Dragon Age Inquisition sucks at 60. I really do. It's almost like that game needs to be at a higher refresh rate because a lot of what makes that game look good is its particle effects and the spells and stuff like that. So Dragon Age Inquisition, it's an outlier. I think with that game, just decidedly looks better at higher refresh rate, which is why I started with that game. One of the reasons I started the video with it. So here's the deal. Let's say you've been PC gaming for a while and 1080p 60 frames per second, you've been there, done that. You want an improvement in your gaming life. The XL2430T, even with a GTX 960, even with a GTX 970, even though not every game lets you do 120 frames per second or 144 frames per second, I honestly think that it is an improvement. it is an upgrade to your gaming experience. If you already have a GTX 970 and you just want to give your gaming experience an upgrade, this $400 monitor is one of your cheaper bets. Because if you have a GTX 970, you may as well, if you're going to upgrade your graphics card, you may as well get a 980 Ti. Okay? Because the 980 is better than the 970, but it's not like leaps and bounds better than the 970. It doesn't destroy the 970. It's better than the 970, yes, but the 980, it's not life-changing. Where the 980 Ti by itself is almost as powerful as two 970s. And there's been a lot of people that have shown the benchmarks proving it, that one 980 Ti by itself is almost as good as two 970s in SLI. All right? So if you already have a GTX 970, you can get a better gaming experience by just buying this $400 monitor. All right? That's the thing. To me, this monitor was made for gaming. If you want to improve your gaming situation, I can recommend this monitor. But for general usage, I was disappointed. My RL2455HM at 60 Hertz is not awesome at general usage, but it's good. It is enjoyable at general usage. It is good and it is enjoyable. It's not bad. It's not awesome. It's middle of the road, maybe better than middle of the road, right? Like, I have no complaints against it, and it's pleasing to the eye. Now, the XL2430T, this monitor we've been talking about for this review, the XL2430T, everything is crisper on it, to include word processing and YouTube and all that. But for some reason, it doesn't look better to me, if that makes sense. So, and again, I think if you take the time to tweak everything, then maybe it will look better and it will be worth it. And remember, this monitor comes with a little device that lets you quickly push buttons to switch through your user profiles. And in a way, it is my fault that I have not taken the time to do that. But you guys, I'm going to tell you right now, it took me 5 or 6 days of playing with color, temperature, black levels. There's so many settings in here, and I didn't even probably do a proper job of showing you. But it took me 5 or 6 days playing all of my games to put together the image quality that I liked. Okay? And to be honest with you, I didn't want to keep putting in more and more days just to make YouTube look better. Does that make sense? So I'm admitting that it's user error on my part that I didn't take more time to tweak it. But as a user, I kind of found it frustrating that it took me so long to find settings I liked in the first place. Remember, I don't even use these color temperature settings that I showed in this video. The ones I use, unfortunately, for like gaming look beautiful and make the colors more vibrant and pop better. But the downside is it makes even my desktop have like a green tint to it, and it makes web browsing and everything have a green tint. I'm not kidding, because the settings that I found that looked the best for me involve turning red and blue down and having green turned up. And like I said, that's like its own little bunny trail we could go down. I don't want to go down it. So for gaming, there is a compelling reason to own this monitor. By the way, you need to use a DisplayPort cable if you want to play in 144 Hertz, 120 Hertz. Maybe you'll have better luck than I did, but even when I connected an HDMI cable directly from my graphics card to this monitor, for some reason, and I used like a really nice HDMI cable, like a 27 gigabyte per second HDMI cable that I've noticed has better quality, better picture quality. Remember, I'm doing this video in one take. The HDMI cable in question is a good HDMI cable and makes things look better, okay? But even when I use this high-speed HDMI cable, my computer using Windows 7 limits things to 60 frames per second, 60 hertz. So here, let me go to the desktop and show you this. Most of you guys are going to know how this works. Some of you might not. All right, so if you have NVIDIA, you right click, go to NVIDIA control panel. This is the fastest way to do it. And what you're going to see here is you have PC 1920 by 1080 refresh rate 144. However, see this over here, Ultra HD, HDS, all right. This is the only thing that's selectable when I have HDMI hooked up. Okay, see it even says right up here, display port, PC display, okay? And then it even says BenQ XL2430T. See all that? I'm on Windows 7. When I use an HDMI cable, even when I use a good HDMI cable, instead of saying BenQ XL2430T there, it says high definition television. And it only lets me do 1920 by 1080p, 60 frames per second. And this option down here for PC 1920 by 1080, 144, that option is not available, all right? Now, maybe I'm PC illiterate, maybe I'm stupid, maybe Windows 8 and Windows 10 work differently, but in my situation, I had to use DisplayPort. So I'm telling you, there's a chance that you're going to have to use DisplayPort, or maybe you do have to use DisplayPort. I don't know. So here's where I'm at. The performance, as far as like having a better picture and having it look really good and like good smoothness and good clarity and almost G-Sync performance, even though it's not a G-Sync monitor, I think it's great. And I think 1080p gaming on this is so good. I am so happy with this that the only reason why I'm still probably going to get an Acer Predator is so I can review it for you guys. But personally, if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I would be happy gaming at 1080p on this monitor for at least another year, maybe another 2 years, okay? Because let's be honest, if you want to game at 1440, you basically need a 980 Ti, or you need to run, maybe you can do a 970. You can do a 970 for 1440, but you gotta have a lot of stuff turned down. You can do a 980, but you got to have some stuff turned down. The 1440, I said 1440, a 980 Ti graphics card, in my opinion, is your cheapest. Well, I mean, I guess you can get into the AMD side. I'm not familiar with AMD products. I've not used them, so I can't speak to them is the issue. So it's one of your cheapest ways to get into 1440 and 1080 and all that. Right? I mean, 1440 and 4K. This video's been long. It's in one take. I'm almost done. Please forgive the mistakes. All right. So to clarify, if you're going to do 4K gaming or 1440 gaming, you're probably going to want a stronger graphics card. Let's say even if you do get a 980, that's a $500 graphics card. And then the monitors are still going to be at least $300, $400, $500, even if you get a 60 hertz 1440 monitor. Now, yes, you can get a monoprice monitor that's 4K and this, that, and the other, but a lot of reviewers have told you those are not very good monitors. Now, maybe some of you just don't care, whatever, fine. But in my opinion, there's definitely a case to be made for playing in 1080p, higher refresh rate, even if you, quote-unquote, only have a GTX 970, even if you only have a GTX 960, and probably even if you only have a 980. To be honest with you, I've used a 980 before, but I have not used one with this monitor. But if the 960 and 970 are good with it, obviously the 980 would be good too. So I know I'm talking a lot, guys, and please forgive me. I know the review is long. I know I showed you a lot. But we're talking about a $400 1080p monitor, so I feel like I really, really have to lay this out for you. Like, is it worth it? Oh, one more downside, and it's kind of an oversight that I'm tacking this on to the end of the review. So I'm going to tell you this, and then we're going to summarize, and then we're going to be done. I don't think HDMI looks as good on this monitor as it could. Keep in mind that this monitor is only at 60 hertz with HDMI. So one thing I've noticed is it's so weird. I prefer the image quality on the cheaper monitor when I use HDMI. Okay, that's one of the things that makes it so hard to give the recommendation on this monitor. When you use DisplayPort, when you use a GTX 960 or a 970 or better, and when you play certain games, it's mind-blowingly good, all right? And then you have games over here like Metal Gear Solid 5, Crysis 3, Far Cry 3, Dying Light, The Witcher 3. Those games in that left column, they're good on this monitor. They're not bad, but they're not mind-blowingly good. Where like the games over here are like legitimately, genuinely better. Like I for sure feel it's a better experience. Some of these in the middle column, I haven't tested enough to give you my definitive answer. Oh yeah, forgot to put black flag over there. So like the jury's still out on the two middle columns. And then I forgot to tell you guys, like HDMI, this is subjective. Okay, and then how do you prove something that's subjective? I don't know. I prefer with an HDMI cable, I prefer the quality of my RL2455HM. It's crisper on the XL2430T. It is sharper image and crisper and more things pop on the screen. And I always say I like things to pop, but I feel like I just like the picture subjectively better on the cheaper monitor when I use HDMI. So I think that has to be factored in. If you're using DisplayPort, I think that even these games over here that don't necessarily benefit from the higher refresh rate, they still look good. They still look equally as good as they do on other monitors to me. They don't look bad, they don't look worse. And then you have games that genuinely look better, okay? They genuinely look better over there. So for me, when I use DisplayPort, to me it's still more cost effective to just use this $400 monitor and enjoy it, if you will, than it is for me to buy a stronger graphic card and a 1440p monitor or a 4K monitor. I mean, I wish I could give you a clear-cut recommendation. All right, I wish I could. Hopefully watching this video, what I've said and what I've shown you has helped you make up your own mind, because you know what matters to you better than I do. So maybe what you've seen and what you've heard in this video has helped answer the questions you have about the monitor, and now it's helped you decide if this is the monitor for you or not. Because I can't tell you. This is a good monitor for me, because I realize if I want a better gaming experience than this, I am going to have to get something like an Acer Predator. I am going to have to get, I think Acer supposedly makes one of the best 4K monitors too. So I'm going to have to get a $600, $700, $800 monitor to do better than this. And then I'm also going to have to get a stronger graphics card at that higher resolution. So for me, this is a good fit, but it is a good fit with compromises. I'm still keeping, let me see if I can show you when I back this out. See this up here? Sorry for shaking the camera. Let me go back. Here's my setup. And just so you know, this is a TN monitor, TN panel. It's not IPS. So you will be affected for like viewing angles. I have a desk clamp on here that holds the two monitors above each other. So my RL2455HM is up top. And when I don't want to use my XL2430T on the bottom, when I don't want to use this monitor, I just use that one. But not everybody is going to be in that situation. So guys, this is a monitor that, in my opinion, has compromises. Now, again, if you go into the settings, because a lot of this is subjective as far as like, does YouTube and Word documents and all that, do they look better on one monitor or the other? I think they look better on this monitor up here. I really do. Even though they're crisper on this, it's so much more crisper on this. Even the desktop is so crisp, it looks better than 1080. Okay? But subjectively speaking, the image quality on this cheaper monitor up there for some of the non-gaming stuff is better to me. And I know I am beating a dead horse. I know I'm repeating myself. But this is a $400 1080p monitor, and I feel like I owe it to you to really lay this out. Okay? So if you're using HDMI, that's only going to go 60 frames per second anyway, at least in my experience, I should, you know what, I'll do further research, and in the description I will put it in the box, and I'll let you know if HDMI lets you go higher than 60 frames per second with this monitor down here. But if it doesn't, you got to understand that if you're using HDMI, you might not even need an XL2430T because you're not reaching the full benefit. And also with HDMI, even though it is crisper on the XL2430T, I still find the image to be more pleasing. Excuse me. I still find the image to be more pleasing with the RL2455HM. I just do. That's just subjective. However, gaming is as good or better when you use DisplayPort on the XL2430T. So that's it in a nutshell, right? I am so sorry that this took so long, and I am so sorry that I'm not saying like definitively, yes, you should buy this, or no, you shouldn't buy it. But it's 2015, and we're talking about a $400 1080p monitor, or really like a $380 1080p monitor. But by the time you do tax and shipping and all that, guys, you know you're talking about roughly $400. So a little more than $400 if you have to pay tax and shipping, and even $380. I mean, that's close enough to $400. All right, even if you get it no tax and no shipping, that's still just about $400. So I feel like there's just so much to say on the topic. I see the merits of this monitor. I really do. A GTX 970 in this monitor is a great gaming experience, or even if you get a 980, a $500 980, and then this for $380, so now you're paying $880, you're paying just under $900, but it's still a great gaming experience. And then look, it's actually cost effective when you compare it to an Acer Predator and a 980 Ti. It's very cost effective. A 980 Ti is about $650. An Acer Predator is about $800. Okay, it's well over $1,000. You know, that's almost $1,500. So 500 plus 8, that's almost 1,300. Yeah, but it's almost $1,400 if you really think about it. It's almost $1,400 to get a 980 Ti and an Acer Predator. So this is actually cost effective, as crazy as that sounds. So it's an interesting proposition, but to me, 1080p gaming at the higher refresh rate, especially on this monitor, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I like it. Guys, I promise I wish I could have been more concise in this video. As you can tell, I am very conflicted, and I still have about a day or two myself to decide if I want to keep it. And really, if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I would probably keep this and be happy with it. I would still keep my second monitor though. Knowing what I know, being able to compare them back to back, knowing my personal preferences. However, it is highly possible that once I tweak this enough and set up the 3 different user profiles, it is highly possible that I would be happy just using the one single monitor. But it's a pro that there's so many settings to choose from, and it's a con that I've had to work so hard to find the image quality that really suits me. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching these videos. I try to give you very thorough, very deep reviews. I try to really demonstrate a product to you and really explain the pros and the cons of it. And hopefully this has helped you research your decision. And maybe watching this has helped you decide that, you know what, you would rather hold off till you can do 1440 gaming or 4K gaming. Maybe this video has made you think, well, you know what, that $179 monitor, let's go with that. And if you do that, then there is a plethora of graphics cards that work with it. Okay, that's even more cost effective still. But I will tell you, the one down here, the XL2430T, way crisper than this. It's one of those things where, like, if you don't see this monitor and you only see this one, the RL2455HM, if you only see this one up here, you'll think it looks really good. Okay, but then when you see this back to back with it, you can tell, like, oh, wait a minute, this is crisper. And then when you shut this off and go back to this one, you're like, oh, this is not as crisp. All right, but if you don't have a better monitor to compare it to, It's hard for me to believe you'd be unsatisfied with the cheaper one up here. But again, there is a huge difference between 60 frames per second and 144. There is a giant difference, guys. There's even a difference between, in games like Dragon Age Inquisition, there is even a difference between 60 frames per second and 75 frames per second. There really is. And again, I told you before, not all games do that. 100 frames per second on The Witcher 3 didn't blow my mind. Didn't really look any better than 60 frames per second. Whereas Bioshock Infinite, 100 frames per second, absolutely looked better than 60 frames per second. And that's part of what has made this review so hard, is that there is no single nutshell answer where you can say, oh, well, 144 is always better, or 4K is always better, or this graphics card is always better. Because we're talking about really subjective stuff if you think about it. Like, you could come to my house right now and watch YouTube videos on that XL2430T right now with the settings that I have right now, and how I said that I don't prefer it, you might. And I just try to be honest with you guys. I try to give you the most honest, most thorough review that I can. And I hope you can tell when you listen to these reviews that my heart is in this. Like, I really want to share the information with you guys. And I know, see, there's all kinds of videos out there about the Acer Predator, but is there all kinds of videos about the XL2430T? I don't know. I don't even think Linus has a video on this one. They have a video, Linus Tech Tips has a video for the monitor before this one. The one from the year before. And they said it was a good monitor. But the point is I spend my own money and my own time, and I research these things, and I really try to share the info with you guys. It takes a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort, dozens if not hundreds of hours, okay, just for me to research these things. So at that point, let me go ahead and panhandle a little bit and tell you that liking the video helps, subscribing to the channel helps, commenting helps, sharing the video really helps. And I've even heard that disliking the video helps. Does it help? I don't know. But it really, really does a lot to help the channel when you guys participate. So if you have any questions about this monitor, let me know. I may or may not still have the monitor by the time you ask, is the only issue. I honestly may or may not still have this monitor. It's been a lot for me to think about and decide, do I want to keep this or not? Because there's enough compromises on this monitor that even in my mind, even with me enjoying the gaming on it like I have, and even with me saying that if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I would still be happy with this monitor, I am still disappointed in things like, I don't think HDMI looks better on this. And it blows my mind a little bit to think, even if it is subjective, okay? It blows my mind a little bit to think that I prefer the image in HDMI on a $179 monitor than I do on a $380 or $400 monitor. So there is a part of me that considers that. Like, do I really want to keep it when things like that exist in the equation? However, when I use DisplayPort, that all goes away. This runs away by a country mile and looks so much better once I go with DisplayPort. But again, it kind of strikes me as odd. Why is it that I prefer the cheaper monitor when I use HDMI? So for me, it's a compromise. These two monitors together still cost me, well, let's do the math. Yeah, these two monitors together still cost me less money than one 980 Ti. These two monitors together still cost me less money than an Acer Predator. And let me say one more thing about BenQ. All right, one of the reasons why I've used BenQ products is you don't hear about BenQ having the dead pixels as much as you do Acer or Asus or other companies. And then another thing that BenQ does that should be obvious, and why it's not obvious to other companies, I don't know. The rim, the bezel around this monitor is a matte finish. Is it the thinnest bezel in the world? Probably not, but it is a matte finish. And on the Acer Predator, it's a glossy finish, so it helps create glare while you're trying to game. And to me, that's stupid. It's an $800 monitor. Why would they do that? Why would they make it glossy and make it so you have glare that you have to deal with? Why? I don't know. So the BenQs get so many things right, so many practical things, like the fact that it's a matte finish bezel. And even this white LED over here in the lower right hand corner, I thought for sure it was going to bother me, but it doesn't. Now, this upper monitor up here, the RL2455HM, you can't see it. Here, let me move the camera. See that? You couldn't see it this whole time. There's an orange LED there, and it is positioned so brilliantly that most of the time you don't notice it. And that helps you focus on the game. That helps you, believe it or not, like, golly, I know I talk so much, sorry guys. But like professional drivers who drive semi-trucks and things like that for a living, like I used to do that when I was younger. They train you that you want the dash lights and the stereo lights and things like that in your truck to be dim, not bright, when you're driving at night. And I still to this day use this because it makes you a better driver, because you have fewer distractions while you're trying to look at the road. Well, when you look at the monitor, you don't want a big bright LED blinding you. And oddly enough, that white LED is not distracting. I thought it would be, but it's not. Now, I've heard the Acer Predator big blue one is. Is it? I don't know. I haven't used that monitor yet. And I can tell from the videos I've seen that if there was a reflective bezel around there, I would find it distracting. Okay? So there's these little things that BenQ gets right that makes their monitors just a pleasure to use. But I don't know, guys. Like I said, I know it's been a really long review. If you've watched the whole thing, thank you so much. But at the same time, if you've watched the whole thing, then it's a service to you too, okay? Because there's a lot of information I'm sharing. There are several things here that I'm laying out for you to use in your decision-making process. I'll summarize one more time and then I'll be done. With DisplayPort, some games, even if it's only 75 frames per second, look amazing on this monitor, and it makes me feel like it's totally worth it. And this monitor is only, quote unquote, $400, $380 versus a much more expensive 1440 or 4K monitor. And then I can use cheaper, quote unquote, graphics cards like the 960 and the 970 to drive it. Even with the 960, some of your games will play at 144 frames per second. Okay? Even with a 960, so keep that in mind. So it's cost effective when you realize that you do in some games get fantastically beautiful gaming. Oh, in the aiming, oh, I can't tell you enough. When I was playing Far Cry 4 and I shot that guy through the windshield of his truck, it felt good. And maybe you're a really great gamer and you can do that on the world's worst monitor. Good for you. I can't. Okay? The response time and the responsiveness, the crispness, everything involved in the process, I am a better Far Cry 4 player when I use this monitor. And that makes the game more enjoyable to me. All right? So I can game at a higher refresh rate, games can look better, games can look more enjoyable, and this is cost effective compared to 1440 gaming. It is cost effective compared to 4K gaming. It's expensive for 1080 gaming, but if we're honest with ourselves, it's still more realistic for me to have a GTX 970 plus both of these monitors is still cheaper than an Acer Predator and a 980 Ti. Okay, like if we're honest with ourselves, that's the real deal. So there is a place for this monitor. There is an argument that can be made for it. Now the downsides are, I don't think it looks good for everything. I don't think it looks good for all of the activities that I use it for. I don't think it looks bad for them per se, but I prefer doing them on a cheaper monitor, which makes me scratch my head. And I feel like HDMI looks better on the cheaper monitor, and that bugs me. Even if I'm never going to plug an HDMI cable into this monitor, something about that bugs me. And when you're paying $400 for a 1080p monitor, I think it's fair to say that bugs me. So anyway, I know this was really long. Oh yeah, and again, if you skip to this part, you can change 3 user profiles and save them. And this monitor comes with a little device that lets you push buttons to skip through them. Also, this monitor, it works as a USB hub, and it comes with a very good stand. Let me grab that real quick. I'm still here, guys. The stand's just across the room. Let me show you the stand. Because remember, I put this monitor up on that desk clamp, but the monitor actually comes with this stand. Here, we're going to have to change some things. Please forgive me for the little bit of shakiness here. All right, there you go. See, that's the stand that it comes with. Let me see if I can improve the lighting situation. Okay, so that's the stand that this monitor comes with, and I'll even, there you go, you kind of get, it's daytime, I promise you. It's like 6:40 p.m. The sun is out. It's just, this is a camcorder. It's only going to have so good of image quality. So it comes with a stand that it tilts, it pivots to, you know, like it makes it so the monitor can go landscape or portrait. It goes up and down like really low. See, it goes down really low. That'll bring the edge of the monitor almost touching the base of the stand. It's got a pass-through for the cables. It doesn't look brilliant, but it is actually. By the time because you normally won't have the monitor at the highest point. You'll normally have the monitor somewhere in here. So what happens is when you use the pass-through for your cables, you won't even see the cables most of the time. It has a little hole in it right here in the stand. That's where your round puck goes, where you can use it to change between your user profiles. And it's very heavy. It's very heavy. It's not going to fall over. It's not flimsy. It's very well made. So it comes with a very good stand. My issue is, you guys already know I'm using two monitors, okay? I'm using two monitors, so I don't use the stand. Oh, and the stand also has a handle in it. See that? So you can just carry it. All right, so hopefully this review has been helpful for you guys. You can never say that I give you a flimsy, superficial review. I give you guys solid reviews. I give you guys all the info, all the considerations, and if I missed anything, let me know in the comments. Remember again, like the video, subscribe, share the video, ask me questions in the comments, or let me know, do you have this? Do you want a game in 1080p? And remember, if you want to hold off to do 4K gaming, then just go with an RL2455HM. It's a great monitor for $179 US. It's going to get you 60 frames per second gaming, and you can do 1080 on the cheap while you save up money to do 4K instead. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to do. This has been AI Gaming 1776, and I really hope this video has been helpful for you. You guys have an excellent day.